Welcome, everybody. We appreciate you guys joining us for enhancing indoor air quality and virus protection. Nothing going on with the viruses today, right, guys? Unreal. Everybody's hunkered down. So we have with us, we have Scott Gorman. He's the president of Gorman Industries. Scott Russell, the tale of two Scotts. Scott Russell is the president of how do you say that? UltraVation?
UltraVation.
UltraVation, awesome, very good. And I'm Dave Lowe. I am your GovBrief host, and we're glad that you decided to join us today. We have folks from all over the place. If we missed you because you signed up late, we apologize for missing your logo, but we just want to welcome everybody here, VA, GSA. We have folks from transportation as well, and EPA. We just really appreciate you guys joining us and taking the time. The session agenda today, I'm going to introduce you to these two guys, why they're here, talk a little bit about the briefing controls, some of the initiatives and regulations that are coming down on everybody, as well as everybody's facing a lot of the same issues with their facilities. We'll talk about that, and we'll talk about best practices for maintaining your air quality, get into some of your questions and answers, which we will do throughout this briefing, and we'll get into some recommended action steps, as well as some procurement options for you guys and additional resources later if you need it. A quick disclaimer, this is not affiliated or endorsed by GSA or any other agency. It's provided to you, the audience, for informational purposes only. All participation in this briefing is voluntary, and you don't have to buy from anybody, but we just want to make sure you guys can participate. So we got the disclaimer out of that for that. So let us know why you are here today. We'll be asking a few polls as we go along. If I can get these open, here we go. Let's try this. I'm here today because you're responsible for facilities and HVAC systems. I'm responsible for controlling costs. That's a great thing. We'll talk about that as much as we talk about the some of the benefits for killing things. I'm interested in UV technology, or my boss made me come. Somebody's got to pick that. Somebody's got to. There we go. So we appreciate you joining us and participating. We got a couple more to go. We'll give you another 5, 4, 3, 2. You can do it. I promise. It's not painful. There we go. And that's it. We got as much as we could. All right. So let's share that out. So that's what it looks like, gents. That's where we are. 100% are interested in UV technology. That's excellent. We appreciate you guys joining us, and I appreciate the people that decided to say that their boss maybe was honest. All right. So if you like the way that Scott Gorman looks, I forgot to say something about this from our front slide. So I'm going to do this. What we have here today, ladies and gentlemen, is we have Scott Gorman, aka the Fonz. We have Scott Russell, aka Magnum PI, and Dave Lowe, aka Richie Cunningham. So there you have it. I just want to make sure we got that out. So for controlling this, if you like the way that we look today, you can make us bigger. You can drag that thing from the side, or if it's at the bottom or the top, and you can make us larger and expand us. Or you can make it disappear altogether if you want to. You can open that panel on the right-hand side, and you'll see handouts there. There's 5 of them, and those handouts are Executive Order 13854 and implementing Executive Order 13834. My apologies. And DOE guidance for ESPC contracts, because guess what? Not only can we kill things with UV lights, we can also make your systems more efficient. Isn't that right, gentlemen?
Absolutely.
Right.
And we'll talk about there's a whole bunch of information in the UltraVation detailed presentation. If you're into the engineering side of things and all the numbers, that is what you want to take a look at. A lot of great information in there on how UV works, as well as UV application guidelines for one of the series that is there. So if you have any questions, you can raise your hand. You can chat it to us, and we will make sure we respond. You can also, if you want to dialogue and you called in on the phone, very important, you have to put in your PIN so we can unmute you and we can dialogue that way. And you can also email us throughout this if it's something in particular you'd like to take offline, govsupport@gormanindustries.com, and we will take it from there. So let's take a look at what kind of facilities we're talking about here, folks. And you can let us know if your facility is in fact an office building, and a hospital or a clinic, a multifamily unit. It could be residential as well, a transit system, or airport, or something else. Let us know where we are. A lot of folks with hospitals so far and office buildings. That's fantastic. Multifamily unit and something else. Fantastic. We appreciate that. And we want to get right to it. So we won't spend a whole lot of time on this, but we'll give you another 5, 4, 3, 2, and there you go. So if you want to talk about hospitals and clinics, we can, as well as office buildings. That's the vast majority of them. No transit systems here. I thought there might be some from when I saw Department of Transportation. So there you go. So a little bit, tell us, Scott Gorman out in Albuquerque. Tell us a little bit about Gorman Industries and how you got involved.
All right. So yeah, as it mentions here in the slide, this is a family-owned company. We're based out of Albuquerque, New Mexico. Been here since 1950. It was started by my great-grandfather, and I am just taking the reins and moving this company forward. You know, it's a very interesting time to be in business. I think we can all agree on that. And with this COVID-19 virus that's going on, we have partnered with Indoor Air Quality, which is Scott Russell and his company, UltraVation, to address the needs that are going to be coming to us for the next years to come. This is not a short-term, one-hit deal. This is going to be for years and years to come, and we really see an opportunity with UltraVation being the company that they are. We really value their partnership and all the technology that they're bringing to the table to help out our end users, which is multifamily housing, hospitals, you name it. We do also do residential here in Albuquerque, but we're really excited about the partnership with UltraVation to help out our customers.
And you're a small business. You have a GSA schedule pending. That's what which schedule are you getting again?
51V, the hardware store. So we just got our application in February. The GSA contracting officer contacted me last week, letting us know that the ball is rolling. So we're hoping to hear back from them within a month or two to get that GSA contract. Excellent.
That is fantastic, and that'll be a great help for dealing with a lot of the folks that are on this call for sure. So tell us, Mr. Scott Russell. I have the issue with the two Scotts. Don't usually have that problem. So tell us about UltraVation. How long you been doing? 30 years plus. Good grief.
Yeah, UltraVation itself is 21 years old. Prior to that, there's 4 of us that are partners in UltraVation, president and co-founder. Prior to that, our senior partner literally has about 60 years experience, and we are one of the leading manufacturers of air and water purification products. We manufacture on a commercial scale, on residential scale. We provide a lot of OEM components to different vendors and water treatment facilities, and we've had a fun, really, I will say a fun existence. We manufacture lamps, we manufacture circuit boards and ballasts. We bend all of the sheet metal and everything, all in 3 facilities here in Vermont. So we're definitely a one-stop shop for anything ultraviolet. That's for sure.
That is fantastic, and BAA compliance is going to come back rolling really, really hard after this whole situation and breakdown in our supply chain. So love the fact that you are manufactured here in the United States. That's fantastic. So as we get into the meat and potatoes of this, there's some initiatives that I'm sure there's a lot of folks that are familiar with. Executive Order 13834 is included in your packet, as well as as the implementation for that. But it talks about increasing efficiency, optimizing performance, eliminating unnecessary use of resources, and protecting the environment, reduce waste, cut costs, infrastructure and operations, all that rolled into that, as well as the president's management mandate as well. So there's a lot of things that happen that come down on agencies' heads that oftentimes you don't know why they are. And here's another one from the GAO inspector report talking about maximizing the performance and having outcome-oriented performance measures that you can identify and improve on your systems. And this absolutely applies to that. as well as some of the challenges that we see with agencies across the board. Aging facilities, huge issue, right, gentlemen? That's something that we see all over the place. Maintenance costs are going up. The budget constraints right now, I don't know about budget constraints regarding all the money that's flying around at the moment, but really we still have to be fiscally responsible, and a lot of that's going to be tightened right back up after this whole virus thing gets taken care of. The other problem is new construction costs. A lot of the facilities that were designed a few years ago, now you can't even build them for even close to the budget as it was in the past. And the other is just finding qualified vendors, folks like you guys that really understand your industries. Very important, folks that have been around for quite some time. So Scott Russell, tell us, what is UV ultraviolet filtration? How does that work?
So the UV lighting application is, I think, fairly simple to explain. So you're having a device that emits 254 nanometer germicidal UV light. But that light, when a pathogen or viral bacterial content comes in contact, it's sterilized. It in a short version here, it scrambles the DNA of the microorganism so it can no longer reproduce. So as these items would land on an air conditioning coil, in the world of air conditioning systems, that moist environment is a breeding ground for these viral and bacterial content and algae growth and contamination. So in normal business, we are always supplying UV purification for the efficiencies of air conditioning systems. Now, the odd part is the reality, a byproduct of doing this for proper efficiencies is getting indoor air quality, a good jump start in indoor air quality. For the ultimate indoor air quality, we take purification past the coil stage, and we're able to put UV purification in duct runs and things like that. But it's a win-win situation is the bottom line.
That is fantastic. And here's a really attractive picture.
Yeah, and that's a real picture of biological growth growing on air conditioning fins.
And what about this one?
And that would be your typical algae slime growth that, believe it or not, you could be walking into any public building and the air that you're breathing has passed through that.
Makes me feel so good. It's kind of nice to be quarantined.
I often tell people you can select the best source of water that you're going to drink, in which we do. You know, you're going to look for bottled water. You have no choice in the air that you breathe.
That is a fact, and that is amazing. And you said that's a cancer facility? Is that what you said?
Yeah, this was a University of Florida Cancer Genetics Research area facility, and this is what the coils look like when they asked, obviously, for the application and for the UV technology to be installed.
Wow, that is something. So,
and this is going on in all buildings everywhere. I'm doing work with the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and going back to what Dave Lowe was saying, their facilities are very dated, and this is almost every single coil we see there are major issues with.
Yep, and that's in Albuquerque. It's pretty dry there most of the time.
Correct.
That is fascinating. And you take a look at this, and there really isn't an application that this doesn't apply to. Isn't that right?
That's correct. You think about it, whether it be a residential up to a commercial application, there is absolutely no facility that cannot benefit from this technology.
Yeah, and we have a bunch of folks here with hospital organizations, and there's a whole lot of challenges beyond just algae and things like that. There's a whole lot of challenges there. So this, from a technology, for lack of a better term, you have like high output light bulbs that are UV light bulbs. Is that how that works?
The UV lamps are very specific. They generate this germicidal wavelength. Now, this energy is, for example, if you were to look at it with your human eye for just a 10-second exposure, you literally would have a burn on your skin and temporary blindness to your eyes. It's germicidal, very powerful UV light. It's closer in the light spectrum to X-rays than it is to visible light.
Wow, that's interesting. So, and it goes before heating coils and cooling coils, right? This came from the ASHRAE handbook,
yes.
which is also going to be provided as well. We'll get that out to everybody. But
yeah, and what they're showing there would be a typical hospital application, because when they're showing UV before a filter, they're meaning a HEPA filtration system. So they're showing that UV, both sides of that coil, as I said, that's the breeding ground for these potential pathogens. And then the UV after is making sure that the filter itself is sterile. Because if you catch a virus, for example, in a filter, or bacteria, whatever, when you're the maintenance person and you have to change that filter, you're coming in contact with that filter. So
Wow.
UV sterilizing that filter ensures that anything that was captured to the filter is dead, for lack of a better term.
That's a good thing for the virus to be, is dead. And here, to your point, you were just talking about the HEPA filters, and here is, you did a side-by-side comparison in the same facility. Is that what that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. So this right here was two new HEPA filters were installed, and they ran for 6 months with the UV purification on one side of this application. This was a test program. One side did not have the UV, and this is the end result of what a HEPA filter looks like after the microbial growth is allowed to capture via the filter and then populate or grow. And that's what happened.
That is fantastic. Fantastic. Scary, but fantastic. So you mentioned this before about how it kills the microorganisms, and this does work with COVID-19 as well. Is that right?
Yes, there's been in our industry, in the UV industry, there are several people that are that have studied all of these different viral content and bacteria content in the different lighting manufacturing companies. And what they've done, they were able to assemble modeling based on previous viruses, going all the way back to SARS and the different variations of coronavirus. And we know that in general, viruses are very easy to deactivate with UV lighting, but the bottom line is they've done modeling. Obviously, no one's done a test on COVID-19 itself, so you have to be clear on that, but the modeling data is there, and there is already research that's been published to help everyone understand how to size properly. And that slide there is a perfect example of the calculations that were done on one facility of what it would take for the UV energy. The numbers that you guys are not familiar with on the right-hand side are a different product that we manufacture, so we were able to demonstrate to this particular client that this is what you should expect for results with disinfection. And as you can see, the COVID-19 has been modeled at the top.
Mm-hmm. And that's really important. And you were mentioning before about the types of things that get into hospitals, and Legionella, obviously a very important component. And when you have an industrial hygienist that comes in and takes a look and sees what is happening within the facility, in every place, that's one of the things that they're really, really conscious of, obviously, with the VA. And so the other part, and Scott Gorman, you and I were talking about this before, about the efficiencies that are gained when you're installing these, and it winds up being something for ESPC contracts, for energy savings performance contracts that DOE puts out. So give us an idea of what kind of savings are involved here.
So the savings are, you're going to have that upfront cost of the installation as well as the material, but over the time period of 5 years, just based on the energy consumption, that your HVAC units are going to be working so much more efficiently because the air isn't flowing through these coils that are built up with the biofilm and the bacteria that we've been talking about. That's going to make your units last longer, which is key. Instead of a 15-year life cycle on a unit, you're looking more at 20 years. So that helps your budget in the long run. But it goes back to making sure your tenants are breathing healthy air is the main point that we're trying to get across here. But as for facility maintenance people, this will help you guys keep the efficiency where it needs to be for your guys' facilities. As you can see below, the static pressure, having air go through a coil with high static pressure is going to make your motors burn out, your compressors work harder. It's just going to help quite a bit on facility maintenance stuff, as well as getting the indoor air quality that your tenants deserve and need.
That is so true. And just looking at those HEPA filters, obviously, how much harder did those units have to work to push the same amount of air through those filters.
Exactly. I mean, that's just wear and tear on the main mechanics of your system that you guys are replacing motors, replacing compressors. If you guys have UV protection, it's going to help those primary components last much longer, and therefore saving your budget some money in the long run.
Yeah, that is so true. And here's some of the benefits that we're talking about. Obviously, enhancing your air quality, huge issues right now. Killing viral, bacterial pathogens couldn't be more important right now. As we start to get back to work, and it's going to happen, we still have the rest of all your algae and your other biofilms that I had no idea what biofilms were until we started talking about this and just thinking about this. But minimizing the airborne contaminants all across the board, very, very clear illustration between those two HEPA filters. But the employee health, well-being, and reducing and eliminating odors, we didn't really talk about that much. But how, you think about some of the places like Florida that have, a lot of damp air, and Louisiana and things like Houston. How does that apply to helping kill some of these odors as well?
One of the things right off the bat, I'm sure if anyone's ever heard of the terminology dirty sock syndrome, if you've ever heard of that. If you haven't, it's when you've gone to, it's a real thing. I didn't make it up. If you stayed in a hotel room and you can smell that musty smell coming from the air conditioning system, that is the bacteria that's actually going through its life cycle in that air conditioning system, and you are breathing that air. Now, again, you apply the ultraviolet light, bacteria is not allowed to grow and go through its life cycle, so therefore there's no bacteria load, hence there's no odor emanating from the system. You can take it beyond that. We have technology where we're using photocatalytic processing, which would probably be a whole nother presentation, but the bottom line is we can use the UV light to activate photocatalyst material, and it reduces the amount of VOCs or odors that can be created by chemicals, new construction paints, varnishes. Coffee is a pleasant VOC. Ammonia is not a pleasant VOC, but all these VOCs can be reduced or eliminated depending on the needs of a client.
And you find this like in multi-dwelling units as well, where having or a mall. You mentioned this about the mall. We were warming up, where you have different folks in different places in a mall. Take us through that as well.
Well, so if you just think, for example, what I was discussing earlier was, if you walk into a shopping center, shopping mall, and if they're selling the puppies and the kittens on one side, then across the way is where someone's doing a hair salon and doing nails, and then you could have the next store down as selling clothing and then perfume. Put all that together in the food court, you can picture what all that smells like. And I don't know if anyone really thinks that's all too pleasant, but the bottom line is that a lot of these malls, for example, are serviced by one or two large or multiple large air handling systems. So you can treat the air that's going everywhere by putting this technology in the air handling system. So the short version for this scenario is, if you think about it, you're converting the heating and air conditioning system to purify the air too. So you're already spending the money to buy it, invest it, install it, and push the air through it all the time. Why not convert it to a purifier? That makes perfect sense.
And the same thing applies in hospitals, right? I mean, you're talking about big air handling units and having to, and that's a really touchy area. We've seen some pretty astounding things in hospitals. We did a review with the VA. This was years ago, with an industrial hygienist, and it was pretty amazing what happens if your air handling system's not operating right. It's pretty scary what can happen.
When we do that type of medical work, we're obviously working in conjunction with an independent industrial hygienist. We are doing everything from bacterial counts and swab tests at the supply ducts, the exit, the duct runs, individual rooms. So our ultraviolet technology, it goes inside the air conditioning system, but we also manufacture products that are freestanding. So in operating rooms, for example, they're called upper room units, and I see in the corner there you have it. It's called our FS series. You have the guidelines there, but that's an example of ultraviolet purification that is widely used in operating rooms to sterilize the air that's in the operating room itself.
Yeah, and I tell you, one of the coolest things about this is because we've done a lot of briefings on ESPC contracts, so I know that a little bit more than the average person. If you're interested in because this does apply, and the efficiency mandates and all that, the cost savings can apply to ESPC contracts. Take a look at the download or the handout that you have there, because it is applicable here. As Scott mentioned, the ROI on this is it'll help you out in the long run as well. So we can certainly operate that. So what do you need to get this kind of thing in your building? Let's see what we can do about getting this last couple polls up here. So what is it that you need? Is it that you need the specs that you can start a scope of work? Is it to schedule a follow-up call meeting? We could do the virtual thing and even a virtual site visit potentially right now with us being where we are, but site visits in not too distant future. Something else, please contact me. Let us know what you think. Most people are just asking for the specs so they can start a SOW. Very good. And we'll keep this open for a little bit. So how are you guys handling all the batten down the hatches up where you guys and out in Albuquerque?
So we our state hasn't been heavily hit. So we did send about 75% of our employees home to work from home. It happened to be that we ended up having a really busy week, so we brought about half of those back. But you know, it's a very strange situation. But being in the industry we're in, heating and cooling and indoor air quality, there is definitely a need for us right now, which is great. You know, yep. We hear of a bunch of businesses that are really struggling to keep their doors open, and fortunately enough, we have not fired anyone or stopped production of what we do. It's been a crazy time, but a fun time, because this is when we really gain a lot of our customers with the service that we provide.
And it's something how these types of things really can show off when you're really good at what you do.
Exactly.
It is really something. I did shut that down. Let's take a look at this real quick, and you'll see where we are. A bunch of folks looking to get the specs. A couple of folks need follow-up meetings and scheduling a site visit. So there you have it. Very good. We appreciate you guys participating in that. And we are going to open it up for questions now. So if you have any questions, let us know. And we do have a couple of questions here. What is the cost? How do you determine the costs, and what are the costs associated with doing an installation?
So determining the cost is, things start out with, we need to know the size of the air conditioning equipment and the coil. Typically, we're asking what is the purpose for the installation, meaning, again, we had a lot of conversation about efficiencies. To maintain efficiency is less of an investment than when you install enough UV intensity to make sure that there's no viral passing through that's going to be survivable. So the cost does vary. I'm trying to think honestly of a good way of giving a straightforward answer to the cost. My advice would be, anyone that's on this, is to pick a model of one of your systems, just simply submit that for a quotation. It's free of charge, and then you would see. I'm thinking in items that I've seen in the past, I don't have a good correlation for like a square footage or a tonnage or anything like that.
And that's where you can send all that information over to me. All I need is model and serial number, and we should be able to help you guys out on that end.
All right. And what's the lead time for production now, especially with where you are, Scott?
We have prioritized any of the items that we know are going for medical facilities or for cleaning of masks, you name it. And we have turning some items around literally within a day, 2 weeks at most for our medical side. Our traditional business, we have already explained to all of our customers what we're doing, and we've put them on a 4 to 6 week scenario. In the middle of all this, we're also actively hiring production staff, and we've already spaced people out and workstations and all that. We're just looking for some people that we can share this time with. There's been a lot of people laid off from other areas, so there's a lot of folks that are actually willing to come work in a safe environment that's designed to be essential and stay open. So it's a win-win.
I'm wondering if you have one of these installed on your air handling.
Absolutely. I have about 4 of these installed on my air handling system.
I think that's fantastic. And you mentioned water too. What did you also do water?
Yes. Ultraviolet water purification. Now, when I was 20 years old, I thought I had this fear that everyone in the country would end up with a UV water purifier and we'd be out of business. It's kind of a joke. But now, I'm going on 49 here. And I am amazed that people don't know that, for example, that there's UV water purifiers. So ultraviolet water purification is a safe alternative to chlorine. Yeah. Chlorine is one of the best things we've ever come across as an invention, but when chlorine works, it can create trihalomethanes, which are just simply known cancer-causing agents. The benefits far outweigh getting sick from contaminated water. So rural systems, well water applications, we have residential systems that we fly off the shelf that people use when they get a positive test for E. coli, and well water applications. And the more education that comes around, people realize that if you use carbon filtration, maybe you're doing some reverse osmosis, but in general, ultraviolet lighting makes sure that there's no bacteria. So if you ever had one of those boil water orders and things like that, that means there's bacteria, something's in the water that's viable. And UV lighting, guess what? Kills it. Seriously, sterilizes it 99.9%.
And if you wonder whether this guy knows what he's talking about, just download the overall presentation and look at some of the math that's involved in that thing. And I'm saving everybody from being in a coma. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. No, it's okay. It's easy to assume that you're just simply talking about putting a light bulb in an application, and it's nowhere near like that, especially when you're dealing with large scale facilities. You have the budgets in mind, you have people's health in mind, you have operating costs in mind. All of that plays a role, and what we do is we balance it out perfectly so you do get the best installation and you get the benefits of the technology.
That's fantastic. And there was one question about whether the presentation is going to be made available. Yes, it will. And not only that, we're recording it, so it'll be repackaged so you can watch it over and over again and share it with your kids. So, but other than that, we do have one more question for you guys, and then we're going to get you, we'll get you wrapped up. And that is, as far as your overall HVAC air handling upgrade requirements, if you have anything that's coming up, let us know. If it's immediate, if it's in Q3, we're almost in Q3 fiscal year of 2020. Can you believe that? It's unbelievable. It's absolutely insane. So we're coming up on that. So let us know when you have anything, and if you don't, that's okay too. We just want to make sure that we get you what you need when you need it, and especially if you have something that's right away. So with that, we'll give you another 5, 4, 3, 2, and there you go. So we are at, here's what we got, guys. We have, then a lot of folks aren't really sure, which is fine, and 20% in 2021. There you go. But that's why we do this, just to figure out where you guys are. Awesome. So keeping you guys out of hot water is one of my favorite things to do, is make sure that you can get what you need. You can do pilots, proof of concepts with simplified acquisitions for these. Most of this falls easily under the $150,000 threshold. And if you're working within a hospital coordinator and coordinating with your industrial hygienist, that's something that you do on a regular basis, right, Scott Russell?
Yes.
Right answer. And staying BAA compliant, and that's going to be huge. From what I've heard from folks with the next level of stimulus, within the is going to be dealing with our manufacturing issues that we have discovered during this whole crisis. So follow the best practices. You can download all the rest of the materials and review those, and feel free to reach out to these guys. Both will be able to help you get you to where you want to go, and embrace those improvements. Just go ahead, try it out and see what it does for the folks that are there, and see how it works. Use experienced vendors and use GSA schedules and BPAs in order to be able to facilitate this, because it makes it easier for you. And if you're interested in reaching out to Gorman. Gorman is a small business right there, Mr. Scott Gorman.
Yes, sir.
Out there in Albuquerque, New Mexico. The DUNS number cage code's there, and you will have that GSA contract. I'm certain it's coming. I know that it'll be an exciting time. And if you need any of the other socioeconomic certifications, be glad to team up with any of the folks for service disabled, 8A, Hub Zone, and woman-owned small businesses. You will receive a recap email, which will have the briefing presentation, as I mentioned, all the supporting documentation, the EPA IAQ guidance. That's something that it's just links, because that's the way that the EPA is doing it. You'll get a copy of Gorman capabilities, as well as the UltraVation literature. There's several different components there that'll provide you some additional insight, and a link to the video so that you can watch this all over again. And with that, we're going to let everybody go. Scott Gorman, you want to say any final words before I do my Fonzie imitation on you?
Yeah, I want to thank everyone for coming. We really do appreciate it. Get this information out to all your facility managers. That's who are really going to benefit. And like I said, any way we can help you through Gorman, through UltraVation, that's why we're here. This virus stuff isn't going away anytime soon, and we really want to help your facilities be as clean as possible, as well as making sure your tenants have a peace of mind with what's going on in the air they're breathing. It's going to be really important for the next decade, I feel, to have that indoor air quality that everyone is going to expect when they come back to work. So any way we can help you guys, please reach out to me. Scott Russell, thank you very much for the partnership. And Dave Lowe, thanks for setting this whole thing up.
Yeah, man, it's awesome. And Scott Russell, AKA Magnum PI. Where was that? Where'd you get that picture done?
Well, actually, I was in Hawaii doing a Magnum PI shoot. No, just kidding. I was in Hawaii, though. Thank goodness we have business in Hawaii. I was actually working in that photo.
Yeah, I can tell.
It looks like it.
Mr. Hard Worker, as I can see. But I tell you what, it is. We really appreciate what you guys are doing up there in Vermont, and I think there's a lot to be said for your experience and wealth of knowledge in the documentation. So if you need anything from either one of these guys, great guys to work with, and they can certainly help you with making sure that your air quality is good. And with that, we're going to let everybody go. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time. We appreciate you guys coming to this briefing.